What is
Good evening, Melrosians the world over. I'm Tom Catalini.
I'm Jen LeClaire.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Tom Shampoo.
And this is Let's Talk Melrose. Melrose, a show where Melrosians talk to Melrosians about Melrose. We go end to end, north, south, east, west. We got it all covered here. Tom, what's the latest? You've been up in the woods every day now, I think.
I have been up in the woods. Actually, I've been up in the woods every day. You're right, for a long time. The latest is it's really cold. That's today's weather.
Oh my God.
Windy and cold, man.
Were there trees down today? I mean, the wind was unbelievable last night.
I actually looked for some, and I did not see as many as I expected to see down.
You didn't see any trees in the woods? That's so weird. They all got blown. They all got blown away. They're all gone.
It's a giant field now around the water. No, I didn't see as many down trees as I expected to.
It was crazy. Everybody in my house is completely punch drunk because nobody slept last night because it really felt like the house was gonna get blown over. It was crazy.
It was crazy, and I have those like 1950s metal trash cans, with the metal lids, and they were just bouncing around all night. And I was like, I wonder if they're slamming into my car or what's happening out there.
Sounds like New Year's Eve.
I'm just gonna wait it out, right?
Yeah, I got in trouble. I got in trouble by my wife because I didn't wake up because of the wind. So for some reason, it bothered her that I slept through the whole thing.
Yeah, because if there's a disaster,
right.
You wouldn't be there to rescue
well,
her.
You just wake him up and you say, Tom, there's a disaster. We need some help. And he's the first guy
that
who's
would
going
be
to jump right to it.
Is that how it would work? Okay. All right.
Yes. He's not going to detect. He's not going to detect the disaster.
But I will respond.
But he'll respond to the disaster. Good to know.
If called upon to serve,
now,
he will serve.
What about disasters like the wind or like squirrel bandits or things like that?
Oh yeah, I had a robbery. So the porch pirates, I guess, just as like a PSA type announcement. I hate to bring it down a level right out of the gate, but we've heard of porch pirates, and so a friend of mine, Dave Martin, was nice enough to bake some cookies, and he left it on the porch. And he texted me and he said, "Hey, look on your porch. There's a nice treat." And I said, "Geez, I just walked in. I didn't see anything. Let me go back out." And I'm texting back and forth. And there's no treat. So my daughter says, why don't you check the security camera? And lo and behold, we see a little squirrel come up on the porch and take the cookies, like the whole bag, and just like run off. So I posted it on Facebook like a good citizen, just so others could be warned. And if you can identify the squirrel, I would like to have a word with him.
Okay, we will keep that in mind. Well, maybe we might need to put that on the community pages and put it out there for assistance.
I think what you're saying. So what you're saying, the news is that we have to be aware because there's squirrels around, right? I'll make a note of that. I have not known.
You two may become a victim, and then also the perp needs to be brought to justice, I think.
Sounds like you should run for sheriff.
Speaking of other good citizens, we have more good citizens.
BFD Melrosians. Is there a There's no intro for that.
There's no.
We need a.
There we go.
There she is.
Our favorite.
Our own.
One of our favorite BFD Melrosians, Eugenia Gibbons, made famous by LTMM back in the day, and also the 2021 Black Excellence on the Hill honoree. Representative Kate Lippert-Garabedian nominated Eugenia for her work in climate change at the state level. So we appreciate everything she's done. Environmental justice advocate, Eugenia.
Fantastic.
I feel like the world is going to be okay because she is going to run it someday soon.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's amazing.
And it'll make it a better place.
Congratulations, Eugenia.
Yeah. Come on the show and talk to us about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
She could
be a guest. She could be a guest.
We'll leave her in the green room.
And Jen, also, you were going to talk about a BFD, Maria Trementosi, right?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that briefly. So Maria Trementosi. A lot of people know her. She's been a long time fan favorite in Melrose. She's an amazing singer. She had a long career in the Melrose drama department and was a favorite over there. And now she is a student at Manhattan School of Music, and she and her peers have put together a concert that just aired on Sunday on MMTV, and it will continue to loop and air. But they received a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and the name of their concert was called Love Always. And basically it's like kind of your favorite Broadway tunes and show tunes and other songs that you know, but kind of flipped from a gender perspective. So some of the female identifying singers and performers are singing songs typically sung by male roles and vice versa. And it's really wonderful. And Maria is amazing. So, and they put this all together under, pandemic circumstances. And this is one of the first grants, one of the first few things that have rolled out from this year's crew of Cultural Council grantees. So
with the help of MMTV and published on the went live on Sunday, but you can watch the recording of it on the YouTube channel anytime, and it's probably also cycling around MMTV as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
And also a BFD shout out goes to the UU, right, Tom?
Yes. I don't know which time you're talking about, but I know that the UU Church applied for and got well-deserved PPP money. I forget, from one of the relief packages. If you're a business or institution in town, you could apply, and they get qualified for the grant. And then they found that they thought they were in for some hard times. They had a very successful season, if churches have seasons, and a lot of attendance, and they weren't hurt as bad financially as they thought. So what do? Those do-gooders over there, they figure out, what can we do with this money rather than put it in their pocket or buy some savings bonds or whatever. They decided to donate it to the Bread of Life. And this is serious cake, Tom Shampoo. Yeah. This is like 30 grand.
That's a lot,
of money.
Yeah.
So they qualified. They qualified for the loan. The loan became a grant, all by the books according to the federal relief program. And I think many businesses would be tempted to keep that for a rainy day and maybe try to find some appropriate use within the business. And I thought this was quite generous that they gave it out to Bread of Life, which is expanding their services and the amount and number of people and families that they are feeding and supporting drastically. So it's just really great to see that reported by Mike Karaji in the Patch.
Yeah,
that guy.
That guy, yes, friend of the show.
Yes,
frenemy, maybe.
Yeah, except that he was asking about what podcast he should be listening to. I don't know why that's a question, but whatever.
Right, LTMM
seems to be an easy answer.
By the way, that's another public service announcement we can get out there. This very show is available in podcast form. It publishes every Tuesday night. And many people download it all throughout the night and all throughout the next week to listen to the audio version. It's very satisfying. I hear a lot of 5-star ratings.
I think they must feel like we have faces for radio instead. They prefer to hear us that way.
I hear all the squirrels.
A lot of people are logging off right now.
No kidding. I'm going to just walk away and listen as I clean.
All the squirrels listen. That's what I've heard.
But one place they can't get these faces to hide is at the Melrose Chamber of Commerce, because we became members as we found the loophole that there were basically no requirements, so we applied.
I think they closed that loophole already, though.
I think that was the first order of business.
One jerk at a time.
Yes. So
they're rewriting the bylaws.
We all descended. Yeah.
We all showed up at the meeting last week, and there's 20, 30 people in the meeting. So there's 4 of us representing our organization. And I have to say, it was quite a professional, shindig, and they elected new officers and did their business. But Denise Gaffey did a presentation about developments happening in Melrose. And there was just, you can see that's where the business leaders of the community come together to share information and get together. So it's nice to see those folks come together and move things forward. It's just fun to listen in, I thought.
Absolutely. And I think, in all seriousness, where, we are there to listen in and participate. I mean, I know we're cheeky and we joke around here a lot, but we hope we can be helpful and hope we can learn more, hope we can help, continue to communicate and disseminate information back and forth between different parts of the city and work with Jen Manning, who's coming in as the new ED. So I'm just excited to learn more about them and be more involved, frankly.
Yes, we're further ingrained into the fabric of this community.
That's right.
We are a stain that will not be washed away.
That's right.
Well said. And now it is time for the news. Tom Shampoo will lead us off.
I will?
Yeah. We went over this in the pre-show meeting.
I know. What do I do? I am just pointing out this is the last of, I think it was 3 installments in the paper from our friend and recent guest on LTMM, Jim Bennett.
Yes.
And he has a 3rd installment of his series of African-American history in Melrose throughout the last 150 years or so. Actually, more than that, I think, but primarily post-Civil War. I really enjoyed reading these. I feel like it gave me a really interesting and unique perspective on the city, a part of the city I didn't know before. So I enjoyed reading them. And if you have not seen it, again, go take a look at these. I read them in the weekly news, the Melrose Weekly News, and they're available online on the weekly news. This last episode, or this last installment, I should say, focused on sort of the transition away from Blacks being able to own homes, buy homes, rent homes, and live in Melrose in one capacity to then suddenly feeling like they were no longer invited or a part of that community anymore. And so Jim kind of outlines a couple of stories. A woman who was not allowed to have a baby at what was called the New England Sanitarium. Yeah, Sanitarium, yeah. Right over, which is now the medical center by Spot Pond. That was a hospital back in the day. And so in 1912 or 14, she had to be, she was asked to leave, or she left because they said they would not deliver her baby. Then she had to go to Boston to have the baby. And then there was a big public outcry, but nobody covered it. So it's fascinating stuff. So again, I like the stories, and I encourage folks to go read those. So thank you, Jim, for that information.
Yeah,
that's
and they
great.
do have a survey, which I just posted the link.
Right.
You want to take?
And then also, just as we were talking about becoming more deeply ingrained in the fabric of the community, one of the listeners has posted that we might need to Febreze that fabric.
Wait, the what? We might need to what?
Febreze? Haven't you seen the commercial where the mom comes into the room?
I know the Febreze, but what the fabric of the community.
Sorry.
Gotcha. Sorry. It's been a long day. It's been a really long day.
Or after we get there.
Right, exactly.
We're explaining jokes now. What's going on?
Yeah, right.
This will not be good for the podcast. But I do want to say quickly. Can we just reiterate that the thing about the survey? Yes, I hope we. Yeah, it's there. Perfect. So there's two main purposes for that. They are looking to hear from the community which stories most resonated with you. I mean, they put a lot of content out there. Yeah. They're interested in finding out what landed well with the community and what you want to learn more about. And then there was a lot of comments. We said this in the last show with Jim. There were a lot of comments from the community on Facebook saying, "Oh, we should do more to memorialize this and commemorate this. There should be a plaque. There should be this or that." So the second part of the survey is how might we want to do that? Is it festivals and celebrations? Is it wayfinding? Is it plaques? Is it permanent public art? Is it temporary public art? So there's some options there that they want to hear from. They've talked to folks in the arts community and with the Melrose Cultural Council about some ideas and some ways to do that. So they're looking for those two things.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yes, the post is there. Also, I'm about to hit post on the Melrose Education Foundation is sponsoring a special Parent U called Interrupting Racism, March 15, 22, and 29. Registration is required, but it is free. Also, you can provide a donation if you're interested. But I will be there. Is anybody else going? Or do I have to report back?
No, I'm going to go.
Okay, good.
It's on Mondays, right? Those are Mondays? Yeah, I can do that.
The Ides of March.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. So we'll tell you guys what we've learned. And also the diversity task force members were announced on Friday night. I found that out as I was walking around and Twitter happened. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to post the members of the diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism task force, advisory task force. they seem like a really cool bunch, and we do have one of them tonight on the show.
Yeah. Ooh.
So great.
Here she comes.
Whoops.
Oh, we like her already.
I hit the
That's
stop
gone.
button and it started again.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Hey,
Razzie
Jen.
Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I do feel really awkward that I'm sandwiched between two Toms and above two Jens. I don't know. I think I gotta go. Too much.
What's he doing over there? Yes, Eric.
What's he doing up there?
So, Jim, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for helping us understand what's going on in the world of school committee and this new diversity task force. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we sort of double booked you because you play
Right.
those two. You play those two roles, and we wanted to talk a little bit about both. So, thanks for being here.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting about the task force because we haven't met yet. So I can't give you an update about how much we're going to do. I can tell you kind of what my hopes and dreams are, but and I think it's a great group of people. I don't know all of them, but I'm really excited about
Right.
it.
But very
So
quickly,
let's start
it's 5 people who are assigned to the task force, and then 6 more from the community. Is that right? 6 from,
Yeah,
from the city.
so I think there's liaisons from certain boards and whatnot, but there's a group of 5 that were very, I think it was a really tough decision in the mayor's office to try to figure out who they were going to pick because they had 30 candidates, I think, that applied.
Wow.
And then, they very passionately and vulnerably explained why they wanted to be on this task force. And then I wouldn't envy the people making that decision. I'm sure it was Paul and probably some of the folks that work for Paul. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible group of people. I can't wait to meet them.
So you're the school's representative on the task force.
The committees, school committees representative. Yeah.
So you're coming with that perspective. What are you hoping to kind of shed light upon with that seat at the table?
Well, I think that I work in a school and I'm also a social worker. That's the work that I've been doing for 25 years now. So I feel like, while this has got a lot of momentum behind it, it's work that I've been doing for 25 years in different types of capacities. So I'm just thrilled to be part of the city doing this work. And as far as the school committee goes, like the school committee has been really talking about this, before COVID hit. Everyone on the committee is really, really committed to social justice. And so it's kind of interesting how this whole momentum has built over the last year along with the pandemic. So I think the country, the city, the state is very ripe for conversations. And I really hope that we'll be able to figure out how to have very enlivening, deep conversations as a community and not have it be polarized. Because I think, the world is so polarized and social media can create a lot of polarization. When you're not face to face with people and you're frustrated about a pandemic, that can cause polarization. So I really hope that we can listen to any person in our community that has had any type of oppression or difference and learn from them.
So I know you haven't had your first meeting yet, but with the nature of being an inclusive body, do you know if the meetings are going to be at least viewable by the public as they're happening? Or that's the beauty of a task force, is that they're not necessarily beholden to open meeting laws. Do you have any idea if we're going to be able to see them? Or
I have no idea yet, and I'm sorry I don't.
No, it's
I think that to create kind of comfort and knowledge of each other, I would hope that the first few would be private so we can get to know each other and then open it up more. Or maybe go back and forth, because I want it to be transparent and I want people to listen in and watch. But I also feel like, you don't want to be putting on a show. You know what I mean? Like you guys are putting on a show, and that's really valuable.
We don't want to be putting on a show, actually. Nobody wants us to be putting on a show.
But,
No, I like that you said that. I think there's a need to it would be important to kind of build trust in the room before you bring it. That's going to make the cohesion of that group is going to be really, really important, and so I like that.
So as you understand it, Jen, what's like the output of the group? What's the goal, the objective? Like, is there an annual report? Is there recommendations to the mayor? Like, what does the task force charged with accomplishing?
Getting everyone to sing Kumbaya at the same time on Friday nights at 7. No, I have no idea yet, Tom. So I don't want to be like evasive about it, but I think that we really have to, I would assume that we're going to make recommendations. That's usually what task force does. Task force studies something, discusses something, generates ideas, and then usually has recommendations or action plan.
So you would bring the perspective of a school committee member, and then you would also provide the link back into the school committee of what the task force is talking about. Okay. Yeah. I'll be curious to see what the goals are, what the recommendations are, and how do you get something like this to actually translate into action, to translate into change and moving things forward?
Yeah, and I'm a really impatient person. So it's funny because I'm a social worker, so I can sit and listen to people talk about their problems and support them in finding solutions and all that. And I can be really patient. But when it comes to like doing stuff, there's this great, there's a great way of thinking about how groups form and what type of leader are you. I'm a North, and a North is like, just do it. Like, stop talking. Let's just jump, and so I love this opportunity, but I'm also going to be like, let's not just talk.
Right. Well, I'm kind of excited. We talk about how, last week with Jim and the Dems had a panel of several groups in Melrose that have kind of filled in this gap before this task force was formed. So I'm interested in seeing how all of those things can convene and coalesce with the power of a centralized place to do all of that. So thank you for serving on that.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I was really happy to see your name there. But you mentioned COVID, so let's back up a little bit if you could, because this year it's been a crazy year, and I can't even imagine what it must be like sitting behind that screen every other Tuesday night. So how has this year been totally different? It's such a loaded question. I'm not people. How has this year sucked more than other years?
Gotcha. This is gotcha media right here. Gotcha journalism.
Tell me why it's been so terrible.
So I feel really grateful that I have 2 kids because I have 2 daughters with my wife Andrea, and the one is in 3rd grade and one is in 5th grade. And so just talking with them often about like, what do they want? What do they need? And knowing what they want and what they need keeps me really grounded. And also I work in a school. So the whole summer, I saw what happened last spring when we weren't in regular session with students, and I work with high-risk youth ages 14 to 22 who are trying to get a second chance to come back into a high school and graduate. So that when we weren't in school, I mean, it's really hard to maintain contact with kids that are like kind of more at risk than the average student, and it's not the same not to be in person. So I have that whole background that was informing me to really feel very, very strongly. I'm also in a union, and so I kind of could see like what was happening at the national level, the union leadership, not just at the state level, but at the national level, and not at just the local level, but at the muckety mucks at the very top of the unions were basically feeding lines to their members. Don't go back until it's safe. Don't go back, 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 And I respect unions very much. I respect kind of what they've done on behalf of, their members, and I am in one. But I was really concerned about that because, we were learning a lot about this disease. We've learned so much since last March. So you can't just stay in one place. You have to keep going with what the research is saying in real time. And so I knew that I was going to be very much, let's be in person as much as possible. Let's offer people choices, and let's make sure that, teachers who are, have risk factors, significant risk factors and health factors, maybe at home, that, they should be working remotely. So I was really for all three plans that the superintendent put together. So I'm still there. I still want as many students to return as quickly as possible. And I worry about the achievement gap, and we all own it, right? We own the achievement gap, whether we're on a school committee, whether we work in a school, whether we're a parent, and we have to make sure that we don't, accidentally do anything that makes the achievement gap worse, right?
So where are we with all this now? Because Dr. Kuchenberger has said she wants everybody who wants to come back to be able to come back before the school year is out. So there's like a June goal, which is the end of the school year. So it's a nice idea. There's been talk about pool testing. There's the president of the United States is talking about maybe prioritizing teachers in terms of vaccinations, but what's happening this week or forward looking right now, school committee wise, what do we think is going to happen with getting kids back in school?
The pool testing has started, and that's been going for a bunch of weeks now, and it's ramping up. I think we have about a third of people, whether it's teachers or students, who have consented to it. So we really hope that more people will consent to that. The superintendents of the Middlesex League just put out a letter that came out tonight that basically says, Commissioner Riley, please don't muddy the waters more. We are trying our best to get our students back in. And the hardest thing has been that this has all been, you have the state and the federal government kind of telling you some things, but then giving you local control. But then 15 minutes in, a half an hour in, I'm speaking about really a month or two later, they'll then come in and say, here, we're going to change the rules for you. That's been really hard on the teachers. It's been really hard on the administrators and the principals. The commissioner really needs to back off and trust that the superintendents, the unions, the teachers are all doing their best. And Melrose has actually done a really good job of trying to get as many kids in as possible and take care of the teachers and take care of the families. So
what are we learning from the pool testing? Is it getting results that we're reacting to, or is it confirming what we thought, or
a lot of negatives? I've only heard of negatives. There's certainly been a few positive cases, but I don't think we're learning that from the pools. I think we're learning that from people getting tested or having symptoms. Yeah. But so the pools have come back, as far as I know, they've come back kind of all negative.
Yeah.
But it's a confirmation that the strategy is appropriate and gives more confidence to people, I suppose.
Yeah, and if you see what has happened with the COVID numbers in Massachusetts, we had that horrible, horrible spike in November, December, and January, and now it's been like this. Now it's starting to level off, and we have to be really careful about what happens next, since the governor's opening things back up again, this new normal that started this week. So, we'll be watching the numbers every single week here in Melrose and across the state. So hopefully people will stick with wearing their masks and being very strategic about who they see outside, with distance, and stay in their pods.
So we've talked a lot in here on the show. If you had watched, you would know that a lot about how this is disrupting the system, essentially.
Yeah.
That this pandemic is kind of shifting the way we consider education as a establishment. And you mentioned the word choices. Do you envision that there's no post-pandemic, but when we all can return safely, that we will be offered and afforded some choices on how our students are educated that is kind of outside of the box of that one supposed before?
So are you saying, are there going to be different choices at the beginning of next school year? Meaning
or
full-time, in person, and remote? I don't want to speak. This is me guessing. This is not me as a school committee member. This is me as a parent and someone who works in a school. Is that I would think that next year, some people would still want to be going remote. And I think there might be some teachers that still may need to do that too, that there would be a much smaller group of remote teachers and students, and there would be many more in person.
But I'd love to see this past year really kind of push the way that we because some students are having a different experience. Well, they're all having a much different experience. But to afford parents or caregivers the opportunity to choose a different or outside of the box model, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the things that I worked on before I was even on the school committee is competency-based education. There was a task force that Cindy Taymor, and Margaret Adams set up many, many years ago now, like probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I was on that, and that's the type of school that I work at. And so, that's like at your own pace, you personalize the learning, and you have options and choices about what the way in which you're going to demonstrate learning, as well as how you're going to, do the learning sometimes. But it obviously depends on your age, and teachers can still do all sorts of assignments, but then they sometimes give you a menu of what you get to choose of how you're going to do your learning. So Melrose has been incorporating that over the last many years. And that, I think one of the things that we've learned from the pandemic is that some kids do better at home than in school. Some kids who are really super anxious or have health issues may be better off learning from home. And so now we have the capacity to do that, and we've had the practice to do that. And so that may continue to happen. And that may help in all sorts of different ways that we don't even know about yet.
I've talked about this before the pandemic on the show, that one of my daughters actually enrolled part-time in the Edgenuity program, which I didn't even know existed until we got deep into certain discussions with the high school. But it allowed her to take some classes, fully online in a way that was like, I don't know, the teachers are in like Florida and Virginia, and they're remote, and it's a program that allowed her flexibility without unenrolling from the school system. And I just thought that was a great feature. This is pre-pandemic, and it, that's something that doesn't happen overnight. And it was nice to learn about it and be able to take advantage of it. And I think what Sam's getting to is like maybe the hope that there's greater flexibility and nuance to this. Of course, it's very difficult when you run a tight ship on a tight budget, and it's in the context of a city budget and all of that. So we're running a little bit long, but we did want to get into the budget a little bit with you, because I think that process just kicked off. If you could just maybe give us a quick little view into kind of where we are in that process and what people should know and weigh in on. I'll just
say one positive that I can think of really quickly before we go on to the budget that's come out of the COVID situation that's really obvious is it's helped Melrose get much more tech savvy, and it's helped Melrose get one-to-one device capacity through the grants and the money that we got from the government. So like that gives us a lot more flexibility about.
So can I just say that's a non-trivial change, right? So for just like in my day job, there's no longer an excuse for, getting a meeting together or whatever. So there's like, one guy is stuck in traffic and the whole meeting gets canceled and the project is put off, or there was a snow day or whatever. And now everybody has the technology, they've exercised it, they've used it from wherever they are. And that's kind of a game changer at a foundational level. So I think people can see that from both their personal, professional lives, as well as with the kids. But like, what does this mean, like in terms of the budget process, and how are you shaping next year's budget to accommodate flexibility and needs like this?
Well, so we're kind of calling next year's budget the COVID recovery budget, right? So this year is COVID response, next year's recovery, because we really want to try to get back to everyone in person, but that probably won't be possible for every single student and every single teacher. So we're trying to make sure that we have a budget that allows for taking care of any unmet needs from this year, right? So we know that we're going to have some students that are behind. There's some students that are thriving in this environment, and there's a bunch of students that are not thriving in this environment. We're going to have to re-engage with them. We're going to have to make sure that kids, when they're coming in for a much longer day, hopefully next year, that they are going to have to learn how to re-regulate themselves, and they're going to need a lot of behavioral support and what we call social emotional learning. So, there's a few positions, not many, because it's a level services budget. There's very few new positions in there, but the positions that are in there are really targeted to support students getting back into the routine of a full day of school.
What's an example of a position like that? What does that mean at the ground level? Somebody's hired to do what?
So there's like a behavior specialist that's a part, like a 0.5 position right now at Lincoln that we're proposing to fully give a full-time position to. And it's not about that particular person. It's about what that person can provide to the students and the staff. So behavior specialist works on behavioral plans, teaches and trains teachers and paraprofessionals and anyone who works with a student how to best manage that behavior in that student so that student grows out and away from negative behaviors and towards positive behaviors. And so they're trained to do that, and they're trained to teach others how to do it.
So you mentioned there are a few positions that are in the proposed budget. Last week we learned that there was a little discrepancy in what the mayor thought could be available for the city, for the school line item in the city budget. Is there a way, like, how do we get involved in helping to advocate for closing that gap, however, as regular citizens? And
I think paying attention to school committee meetings. So we don't have one this week, otherwise I wouldn't be here. We have one next Tuesday, and then we're going to be marching towards basically like a budget reconciliation. Like, we're going to say we need this, and the mayor is going to say yes or no to it. He's going to have to balance his budget, and then then we have to say yay or nay to it as a school committee. So I hope that what the mayor decides is to say yes to the proposed budget, because even though it's an increase, it's a real conservative, cautious budget. It's not aggressive. It's not like overspending. It's, Melrose, I know there was an override, but Melrose hadn't had an override for 33 years prior. And Melrose, if you compare it to the other towns around us, we're still kind of behind. So even though I know it's hard to ask for anything more, this is a level services budget, meaning we are just meeting contractual obligations and adding a few positions. It's not a whole lot more. And there's $5 million in free cash that the city has. So yes, that's right. $5 million.
We talked about that often.
We're not asking for something that isn't there.
And so you mentioned the override, and I don't think anybody considers it to be a silver bullet, an immediate fix. But I think there are some things that are, you mentioned, above or below the red line, that would be pretty great to have in our schools. There's an ask for a diversity director, which, with the work that you're doing in the task force and all of the work that the community has been doing on, equity and inclusion, seems to be like a pretty good idea to hire a person to do that work. So if we're already struggling to get this level service, how do we achieve additional, like, that extra wants that you want to have?
And then I think there's the arts director too, right? We'd really like to have yes, there's everything. We'd like to have an assistant principal at the middle school, another one. And those are the three big ones that got nixed, and we hope next year. But people have already been waiting for a long time.
Well, the arts director, that to Sam's point, a diversity director brings really, really important things to the table that we've been talking about in Melrose. And arts director is going to also bring some of that social emotional experience back to the kids, and be able to do some of the behavioral things that you're trying. Arts are an expression, be able to reach kids and be able to work in partnership with some of these other groups for social emotional learning, for behavioral issues, for expression and healing and all that kind of stuff that we need to, post-COVID. They're all important players in this.
So in the budget process, though, you talk about the mayor, but I don't think the mayor alone gets to decide, right? The city council has to approve the budget for the city, which includes the school's budget, right? Isn't that how the process works?
Well, the mayor has to provide a balanced budget, right?
Yeah.
And so there's levers on both sides. He sits on the school committee, right?
Yeah.
So he's a voting member of the school committee, and then it's three different bodies that interact, but the mayor has more power and influence than the other two. The thing that we can do is we can say, we don't accept the budget that he offers. We can say we're either going to have to approve it or not approve it.
Interesting.
So
like
So you-
a
you-
lot of
deja vu.
fun decisions have happened in the last year. A lot
So
of real
you-
fun. That's the sarcasm. Sorry, I shouldn't be.
Now, wait a minute. Who prepares the budget, though? The superintendent of schools prepares the budget? Is that how it works?
So
Presents
for
it to the school committee?
For the schools, the superintendent has prepared and proposed a budget. Yeah, and
And
she's
then
got
the
a
school
big, huge
committee-
budget book, and it's an incredible document. I mean, you should look at it because you can. She and Leah Secor, they did an amazing job. You can just click in and you can check out different sections, and it's very detailed. So I invite you to, when you're having trouble sleeping because of the wind, go ahead and peruse that for a little while.
I will put in a link to the 198-page school committee agenda from Tuesday, February 9th.
I'm probably not one to dig into that at that level of detail, but I do like to understand the process. So the superintendent prepares it, presents it to the school committee. That's who she works for, right?
Correct.
And you guys have to approve it. And then, but the mayor is a member of the school committee. So, like, can you approve something that he doesn't agree to, or does it have to come from the mayor to you to accept the final version? Like, where's the final say happen?
It's a process, right? So we spend a couple months going through different parts of the budget proposal very, very carefully. Like right now we're working on fees and, how much is it going to cost to go to the ECC next year, and how much our school athletic fees going to be, and band fees. And so that's where we're at right now. And then we'll move on to the special education part of the budget. But before that, we're going to have individual school principals review their budgets. So, you dig into one section, you focus on it for a while. You may have to do some voting on fees, and then you move to the next section. And, during this time, I think at the same time, Paul Broder is working on how to prepare a balanced budget for the entire city.
Is any money coming from the state, the feds?
Oh, yeah.
COVID relief? Yeah.
But we don't know how much yet, So we have money left over from certain grants, and we'll definitely get more. But all of that money should go to all the protective gear that we're going to need, the masks and the plastic stuff, and preparing, different types of setups in classrooms, and then also all the testing, and we should spend that money to get teachers vaccinated. So in the letter that came out tonight from the superintendents from the Middlesex League, it's very clearly saying, like, the next thing that you should do, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Governor, please get the teachers vaccinated. If you want us to have kids back full time, you got to take care of that. It's like a gaping hole, right? So they propose in this letter, like, let's vaccinate the teachers on Friday afternoons at the schools. And that's the fastest way we could get it done, and then the teachers have 2 days to feel better or feel worse, depending on what happens with that.
Did you say, I didn't hear, did you say at the schools, at the location where the people already are? Is that what you said?
Bring the vaccinations where the people are.
Why don't we get everybody on a crowded bus and drive them to Gillette Stadium every Friday?
Field trip.
I mean, it's sometimes staggering when you use logic, right?
We can do more than one thing.
It's 9:13.
I know.
We've been deep into the details. I think, but there's so much to cover with you.
That was really interesting.
And just thanks for going through it. Stephanie Thornwall Catalini is in agreement to vaccinate.
Oh, good.
Yes.
We love you,
Thank
Stephanie.
goodness.
Love you. See you soon, honey.
So we covered a lot of ground. Thank you for informing and educating us and taking us along. What one recommendation, if people want to follow along, should they just watch the school committee meeting? Should they read Karaji and the Patch? Like, how do you keep your finger on the pulse of all this stuff?
Sign up for Jen's newsletter also. Jen McAndrew, other Jen.
Yes.
Has a newsletter.
I mean, there's so much information and ways
That's
of
the
getting
problem.
the information, right? So you can go on the city website and you can read the packet, but that's awfully long.
If you could recommend one thing, is there like a Twitter account, somebody tweeting this
I think
out,
Jen
short
McAndrew's
version?
page is probably the easiest.
Perfect.
She's the communication director as her day job, so she's pretty good at putting the most salient things out there. All
right, that's a hot tip for
Okay.
all the
Okay,
viewers of
there you have it.
LTMM.
The last thing I'm doing is I'm recommending books, because part of what we should all be doing is continuing to learn about our history as the United States of America. These 2 books I've read in the last couple of months, and they're great. So
Awesome.
Isabella Wilkerson, this book came out, The Warmth of Other Suns came out, many years ago now. And then she just followed it up this past year with Caste.
Yeah.
So
I heard a review about Caste that they said it was one of the best books they've read in years and years.
We'll get that on our page.
It's really, if you like Malcolm Gladwell with Caste, let's say it's a little bit like that. It's a lot of sociology and history mixed in, and psychology. And this is really about the migration from the South to different parts of the United States following three people, the Great Migration. So anyway.
All right.
Thank you. That was awesome.
You know what? This might be the founding episode of the LTMM Book Club.
Book Club.
There we go.
All right. Here we go.
So, here we go. This is where we dance it off.
We will see you around town.
Oh, you get to dance again. Exactly.
Here we go.
You know the song, Jen.